Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Odyssey House Journals. I'm Randall Carlisle. My co-host Rachel Santizo could not be here today. And today we are going to take you to a higher authority, sort of. Now, don't tune out because this isn't all going to be about religion, but I thought it would be interesting to talk about the role spirituality plays in addiction and recovery, and a lot of people find that one of the things they lean on for as they go through their recovery. And who would be better to talk about it than you call yourself the cheerful chaplain?
I do.
Shantel McBride. You are a chaplain.
I am. Yeah.
And you're not going to preach to people today.
No,
right?
And you know what? We don't preach to people even in the hospital settings or as a chaplain. We meet people where they're at.
And it's a non-denominational thing that you do, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. We call it interfaith.
Okay.
Yeah. So we service all faiths, including people who don't believe in God, and anybody. We meet them where they're at and just see where they're at in their spirituality and how they feel about things.
We were chatting. I've known Shantel for quite some time. We were chatting just before we recorded this podcast about how many deaths that you have attended over the years.
Yeah. I figure, not that I keep track, but each of those people have brought something special into my life and taught me a lesson, and maybe I've taught them something. But I have attended about 500. I've been at 500 deaths of people passing, and I've been a part of about 1,000, whether it be helping with their funeral or just preparing and helping them with mortuary plans and then, leaving. But I've attended about 500.
That must take a toll on you.
It does. It's been such sacred space for me. And there's just so many things that happen, and the dynamics and the people I've met, and just this special feeling that comes. I have learned, you wonder, is there an afterlife? What's after this? And I've often thought about that, and just being with all those people and hearing what happens at the end of life when sometimes people aren't even on medication and they see their loved ones coming, they see a light, just the things that they say. It's hard for me to deny that there's anything after this. And I love following near-death experiences, people who have had them. I love reading about that.
Of them?
I haven't, but I follow people who do. And I love hearing stories like that. And for me, I do think there's something after this life. And so it's been a big teaching place for me, and it's just very sacred.
Let's say I am dying in a hospital room and I don't have any strong religious beliefs and I'm scared. I don't want to die. What goes on conversationally between you and me if I'm the one who's dying?
Yeah, sometimes we can get to a place of understanding and not being scared, and sometimes we don't. Sometimes people do die afraid. It just depends on, their belief system. There's so many things that factor into that. And just being with someone, holding their hand, asking them, what can I do to help soften this for you? How can I help you not be scared? And I think a lot of times it's just being present with somebody, holding their hand and just being there for them. And I think a lot of people need that witness of their being scared. They just want someone to recognize, you know what, I'm scared. And do you recognize that? Do you validate that? And I can and do. It is scary. We don't know.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a recovering alcoholic, and one of the things I rely on is AA meetings. Mm-hmm. And AA always refers, and they way back in the 30s when they wrote the book, to a higher power. Do you believe? And it seems, and AA seems to be relatively successful for a lot of people around the world. And I remember my sponsor saying, you don't have to believe in God. Your higher power can be anything you want it to be. It could be a leaf on a tree. Mm-hmm. Do you believe that, like, accepting the fact that there is a higher power plays a role in people who are trying to recover?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I do think finding something, and even if it isn't God, but finding something bigger than you, something to aspire to go to, when you need that help. But I find that God, in a lot of situations, although it can be a trigger too for people in recovery, the religious part, God part can also be a trigger.
Right.
So it's kind of a 50-50 thing. But I'll tell you too, in death, even I don't want to go back to that, but you can tell a difference between someone who has a faith, who believes in something, being more calm, more at peace in passing than someone who doesn't. And I've had people at the end of life, even say, okay, will you, like if they're LDS, will you make sure that my work gets done, even though they don't believe? And I've given the look like, what? Like, what do you mean? You've been atheist for 8 years. Well, just in case. So there is that seed, there is that belief, whatever religion you are. I've had tons of people who have fallen away from whatever church, Catholic church. At the end of life, they want their last rites. They want the blessing of the sick. They want those faith-based things that they grew up with, even though they haven't practiced or believed those in years. It becomes important. And I find that in recovery too. And when people in behavioral health, or if they've overdosed or tried to take their life and they didn't succeed, that all of a sudden it can go both ways. But a lot of times it does go that way of, okay, I need to find something bigger than me, and whatever that is for them, that's what it is. But just to have a belief in something.
I was surprised. This podcast is not aimed at recruiting people for Odyssey House, but I've worked there for 5 years, and I was surprised. I got a call from the woman who runs the gift store at the Cathedral of the Madeleine, and she said, we have a group of your clients who come here every Sunday, and they want to learn how to say the rosary. And first of all, I was surprised that a group of our clients, because we're not a religion-based treatment center at all, I was surprised that some of our clients, because they're very hard, some of them are hardcore people who have committed crimes and come out of prison, that they go to the Cathedral of the Madeleine. But the thing she pointed out, she said they want to know how to say the rosary. And I said, well, we're not a religion-based program. And she said, well, the point of it isn't to push the Catholic religion or talk about the Virgin Mary, but the point is that saying the rosary is a form of meditation. And that's what my sponsor told me, and I'm non-religious. He said, try to pray every morning and evening, even if you don't know who you're praying to or what, and it will relax you. And I did. And he said, pray for something positive for people you love or things like that. And I still do it, and it works, and I still am not sure who or what I'm praying to.
Right. Yeah, there is a calm to that. And even, when people do overdose or have a near-death experience from that, or, try to take their life, we get called all the time to the behavioral health unit. They just want a prayer. They want to feel some calmness, and not even for themselves. It is a meditation practice, like you said, which is true, but they just want it to calm them. And it does. It calms them down. They'll have somebody that's being unruly, and they'll call us in. We can say a little prayer for them. We'll always ask, okay, what was specifically, is there something you'd like me to pray for? And then sometimes they'll say, sometimes they won't. We just say what comes to our heart, and there is a calmness to that. It calms them down.
That's interesting.
Yeah. A lot of times that happens. I love that Messages of Water. His name is Emoto. I don't know if you've ever heard of that we're made up mostly of water. And he did a lot of studies about water holds memory, and how, since we're water, we hold that memory. And there's a lot of books on that, like Keeping the Score, things that say if we hold those emotions in, we store those in different places. And he talks a lot about, since we're water and we hold memory, even if we walk around with a prayer in our heart, that is always with us, no matter what that is. And so we carry that wherever we go to other people. People can feel that, and we hold on to those things. So prayer is very calming, for sure. Now,
you have an experience in your family with addiction. Can you share that?
Yeah, I talk about a little bit. I try and keep a little bit of privacy for that too, but it's also part of my journey. But yeah, we have a son who's gone through, and still is, through some addiction. issues. And it's hard. It's tough. It's taught me. He's probably been one of my biggest teachers. And I know both sides, when my chaplaincy, when I go into somebody's room or talk to a family member, I can relate to both. I can try to relate as much as possible to the person who's addicted and just that suffering. And sometimes, people just want to hold on to that suffering. That it's just a piece of them and they feel like they're not worthy and they don't matter. And there's a word that I love to teach people. It's genshai. It's spelled Genshai, and it's a Hindu word, and it means never treat anyone in a manner that makes them feel small, including yourself. And so I really try and teach that everybody matters. I think everyone does have their own journey. There's a book, The Afterlife of Billy Fingers. Have you ever heard of that book?
No.
Oh, you need to read that.
Okay.
It's an easy read. It's based on a true story of a sister who lost her brother, and he comes back to her. So it's another near-death type thing. But he's able to come back to her, and this is true. Like, she's telling us as this has happened. And he says in one of the times he comes to her, he says that since he took the hard road down here and had to learn the hard way and learned all these lessons, that he said in heaven there was different classrooms going on, and people had to stop in those different classrooms and learn, and he didn't have to because he learned it down here. He took a hard road. And I really like that perspective. If you believed in that kind of thing, that, that we're all down here for whatever reason and for whatever journey, and we all teach each other day in and day out. And my son's been my biggest teacher, although, I really hope that one day he finds recovery. And
you express, you're pretty active in social media, and I frequently see you express, I guess I'd call it frustration in dealing with your son's addiction. How do you, what is the frustration? I facilitate a family support group, and they all have adult kids who are either out on the street or in jail or in treatment, who have a substance use disorder. And they all express frustration because they don't understand it. It's like, why he or she would do that? What do you go through?
It's a roller coaster ride, that is for sure. And it's up and down and up and down. And my frustration, I think most of it comes from, and I think all the parents out there, we can see so much in our children, even though they're adults now. We see so much potential. And even the strangers that I meet, I see the potential in them. And it's just frustrating for them not to be able to see it in themselves. And even if you're not an alcoholic or someone who's addicted, we all have that in us, that we just can't see our worth. And that's probably the most frustrating. And then just the decisions that are made that are detrimental to him being able to get to where I think he needs to be, but he doesn't think that. Yeah. And so that's, it is definitely a roller coaster. There's a lot of emotions along with all of it. And just, you never know day to day what you're going to get when, sometimes he comes home, he shows up out of the blue, and you never know what you're going to get. If he's going to be high or if he's not, if he's going to be nice, if he's on a tyrant. There's just so many things, and it's hard.
Are you prepared? You're a chaplain, you deal with death all the time. Are you prepared for that phone call saying, we found your son and he overdosed?
I think I am, because my friend Jason Coombs, I think you might know him.
Sure.
He's like one of my biggest mentors, and he has said, you need to be prepared for that, because that could happen. And I know I can as much as possible. I don't know if we ever will or can when that phone call actually happens. Hopefully not. But I know my husband he's not there at all. Yeah, I know that will alter his life in a big way.
We frequently have people in recovery speaking to that family group or on this podcast. And when their mind has cleared, and sometimes it takes a pretty long time for that to happen, they feel so apologetic for the crap that they have put their family through. But at the time that you're in the middle of addiction, you're thinking about yourself. You're not thinking about anything except the next drug,
Right.
which is sort of hard as a parent, because it's like, I love you so much, but you act like you don't care about me at all.
Yeah. And that's definitely a factor too, for sure.
When you talk to him, I guess it's sort of hard to figure out whether his mind is working clearly. I mean, do you have discussions about his addiction?
Yeah, and he doesn't like that.
Well,
Yeah,
well,
he doesn't. That doesn't go very well. And it's such a fine line between having that caring and compassion, and we're his parents, to enabling, and and he can be very manipulative, and he knows our heartstring. He knows what pulls on us, and so it's hard. It is very hard. I don't have the answers to that. I wish I did. I do know and I don't want to condone this at all, but I think sometimes, that those demons that people deal with, I mean, I just can't even imagine. You try and because as a chaplain, you walk with someone, you in their shoes, you try and, have that empathy for someone and just really get into their stories and walk with them and help them by just really being silent and letting them talk, asking them the right questions to get them to think. But they're just, they suffer so deep.
Right. And how do you do that with your own son?
Oh, and you know what? You can't be a prophet in your own home. That's one thing. I'm like, I do not try and chaplain my son, because for sure that does not go over well at all. And I always haven't been a chaplain. So, before that, I was his mom, and I just have to still be that. I do try and use the skills, because I know I did learn them a lot for my son, and I try and just listen, and I try and walk him through the path like I would somebody that I came in contact with as a chaplain. And I just keep holding in my mind that, okay, I'm going to do this for somebody else's son, and hopefully one day someone will come to do that for mine. Because it's hard. Your kids don't listen to you. They don't want to hear it. And they don't. And Tanner, I don't even know if he knows that I think he knows I'm a chaplain, but he doesn't. I don't chaplain him.
What's been your experience? I know you made contact with me quite some time ago about getting into a treatment program. What has been your experience in general trying to deal with treatment programs and have your son helped by a program?
Yeah, and he's been in a couple. He just doesn't fit in that box. And I just, in the way I run my life, I pray that he finds that spot where he does decide, okay, I need this help. And he's at that point right now. Again, I do think in the beginning, and I'm going to be honest, I think in the beginning, he started out with marijuana, and who knows where it would have went, but he got sentenced to go to group therapy. And in that group therapy was some kids that were doing the hard stuff. They were doing the heroin and the meth. And Tanner, my son, wasn't even into that.
At what age are we talking about?
Oh, gosh, that was probably 15 maybe.
Okay. So go ahead.
And I think that he made friends. He got to know those people. Group therapy was very intimate. They shared details. He had to learn to, okay, I need to keep up with these guys, because everyone was laughing at him. You smoke
all
marijuana.
You do is pot.
Yeah, whoopie-doo. Like this is, you got to get into the hard stuff. That's where it's at, and I really honestly feel that, and I don't know for sure, but I honestly feel that was detrimental to his path. I think that then he started, and then when he got sentenced to jail, he did meet people in there. There wasn't, I'm trying to think now who has the CATS program? Salt Lake County or Utah County? Salt Lake County. Utah County doesn't. He got, first time he got sentenced was in Utah County. They did not have any programs that he ever said that were worthwhile when he got busted in Salt Lake County. So I'd always be glad when he got busted in Salt Lake County, because okay, they have programs there. They have some help. He might get some help there. But it's just, there's just so many times you just wish that, okay, I hope that he finds that place. And I do believe in recovery. I think there's that community. I think you need that.
Huge community.
Yeah, that keeps each other accountable. And there are people that still fall from that.
Sure.
They just can't do it. And they do fight a lot of demons, I think. And
the one thing I've observed after working here for 5 years is, and it's a gross generality, but I think that if somebody really wants to recover and is sincere about it, almost any program in the world will work. You know, it doesn't. It can be based on 12 steps. It can be a therapeutic community like ours. It could be Renaissance Ranch, which is more religious. But if you really want it, it'll work.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I do believe that. And you do have to. Yeah, you have to get to a place where you want, because it's hard.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they work hard at getting into recovery. It's a hard road to take, and they need to find that right place where they feel like they fit in and they're ready and they really have a will. And I know my son has that. I know that his will is strong, and if he really willed that, if he really, really wanted that, I do believe with all my heart that he could be in recovery. You know, and they thrive in that. He has his own community out on the street.
Yeah.
You know, they stab each other in the back, literally sometimes. They steal their stuff, but yet they take care of each other. There's a community, a homeless community that really helps each other and
yeah, if you look at
each other's back.
Like when they do these encampment cleanups, you know, they're all sticking together and they're all saying, "Don't take my tent, don't take my sleeping bag," and they do fight a lot amongst themselves.
Oh yeah, we get them in the hospital. They fight and stab each other, but then they turn around and give the only shoes they have to each other. You know, here, have my shoes if your feet are cold.
Or let somebody else sleep in your tent with you or something.
Yeah.
I have trouble understanding all that.
Yeah, it's a community and they thrive. And some people just thrive in that. I think there's a lot of people out on the street that, don't want to be there and they've had bad luck. But I do think there's some that just, that's their livelihood. They love it. They thrive in that environment.
Describe what it's like being a chaplain. I mean, do you sit around at a hospital waiting for somebody who needs a chaplain, or how does it work?
We get referrals. The doctors and nurses refer us a lot. People will ask, and then we just walk around and do rounds and just talk to people. You know, I came from Nordstrom. I worked for Nordstrom for like 28 years, and I always thought, gosh, where can I go that I just walk around and help people? And the hospital is exactly, and the funny thing is, I used to think, okay, we're missing the live piano player, because back in the day, they had the live piano player at Nordstrom.
Sure.
Well, Primaries has that. And so when I walk around, I think, okay, you know, I'm walking around and talking to people and just ministering, looking for people who maybe look like they're distraught, which isn't hard to find. And then
in a hospital?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, have you ever seen that video where the people are getting in the elevator and they have the little thought things clouds that say, you know, my wife was just diagnosed with this, or my husband just passed, or and that's true in the hospital. Everybody has a story, everybody has something they're going through, and you just approach people and they want to talk. They want someone to sit down and listen to them. They can tell their story. So all day long, we just pretty much hear stories and minister and hold hands sometimes. And during COVID, that was hard, but I was still a hand holder. And I thought, because we didn't get kicked out. So I worked for Steward hospitals, and we were the clergy for those 2 years. They kicked all the clergy out, family out. We were it. So I was doing end of life prayers and releases on FaceTime, on WhatsApp, on Messenger, anything, Zoom, anything that the family knew how to do. I learned how to do it. So I would be in there usually with the nurse and the person passing, and we would have their family on the other end of that. And
wow.
Yeah,
that must have been quite an experience, because families couldn't be there even for their dying loved ones.
No.
So you were the middle person.
Yep. Yeah. And at Primaries, Intermountain, they kicked everyone out. So they didn't even have that. We at least had that. So we ministered so much for those 2 years. And I think a lot of it being placed, you know, because I do believe that I was placed there for that time and those moments, and I did the best I could. But that's what we did all day, is just minister to people, and they were lonely. They didn't have
Well, sure.
their
You
family
can't
there.
have visitors or anything.
So
Ooh.
we would go in and visit with them. And in the beginning, I was so scared. I just thought I was going to get COVID and die. And I was so scared. I had a little meltdown in the chapel, and my boss came in and just said, "You need to stop. You need to stop it right now and get a grip." Because I just thought, this is it. I didn't sign up for this. This is not what I signed up for. And
Did you ever get COVID?
I did not. I have
So you're in a hospital setting where people are dying from COVID, and you're ministering to them, and you never got it.
No, and I got told I have this thing called T-cell immunity. I haven't researched more into that, but because I finally, even I was talking to my colleague yesterday, and we both kind of just in the end kind of gave up because we just thought we're going to get it, and so and it was so grueling having to gown up all the time, and we still had to do that, but just being scared all the time that we finally just let it go and just thought, we're going to get it. It's just inevitable that we'll get it. And he didn't ever get it either. Neither one of us did. My boss did, and I think the other three gentlemen, I think they got it. But yeah.
I don't mean to be personal, but do you, I would think you would need therapy yourself doing what you go through. Do you talk to a therapist?
No, and I've wondered about that just in the last little bit. Because
500 deaths and, it's...
Watching people suffer is hard. I realized not too long ago, just a couple weeks ago, I was watching Grey Anatomy, and this lady was having an operation on the table, and she died in the flat line, and I was bawling, and afterwards, after it was all done, and that's good for you. You need to cry. I try and cry as much as possible when it comes. I don't try and stop it. But after, I thought that was really weird because in that moment, I couldn't decipher that was a show. I was living in that and not even consciously knowing it, but subconsciously I was connecting to that woman, and she was passing on that table, and I was affected by it on a TV show. And that's when I kind of realized, okay, I think I might have a little PTSD from all of that. Kidding. I'm sure.
So what's next for you?
So what's next? I'm excited. My ministry is it's going to change probably when this airs, right?
It's going to air. Well, who knows when people will watch it.
Yeah. So there's a gentleman, Chad Hymas. A lot of people know him. He's one of the top 10 inspirational speakers in the world. He's been inducted into the Speakers Hall of Fame. I think it's been about 20 years, maybe more, that he had a 2-ton bale of hay fall on top of him out at his ranch.
Wow.
Left him quadriplegic. He's amazing. That man is just out there changing lives. He's inspired my life, and he's asked me to come and help him out at the ranch. It's Royal Creek Ranches. It's out in Rush Valley, Utah. We're going to have leadership retreats there. He does a lot of hunting things, weddings, maybe some addiction retreats, some grief retreats. He's got an outdoor amphitheater. We'll have some concerts. So just doing some fun ministry work only through events, which I love.
It'll be a lot more positive than what you're doing now. Are you still going to do chaplain? What do you call
chaplaincy?
What you do? Chaplaincy?
Yeah, I will. I love doing weddings for sure. I'll still do that. And I'll do some PRN work at different places, and maybe with the hospice. I've been with Good Shepherd Hospice for about 10 years now. And so that's really hard to leave that. And I'm sure, I'll get called to help out here and there. And I'm doing some death doula trainings, and so I'll still be in that arena, but in a different thing. I feel like I've been on some kind of mission for 10 years, like a calling of sorts. Yeah. And I've just really got the nudge that, okay, you've done what you needed to do, and it's time to do something different. And I'll always have that, and I'll always be appreciative for all the experiences I've had. It's been amazing.
Yeah, you have a lot of friends and a lot of followers, and so thank you for all you've done. I wish you well in the future, and I hope you find some peace with your son.
Yeah, me too.
I hope that works out, and hopefully it will. Because all of a sudden people will. It's like the old light bulb coming on. It say, I got to change my life. So that would add to your life as well. Thank you for coming to this podcast and sharing your thoughts. I always thought it'd be interesting to get sort of a spiritual point of view on addiction as well as looking at your life because you've done so much. So
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Thanks for the
It's
invite.
good to see you
You
again.
too. Likewise.
And you're not selling at Nordstrom anymore, right?
No, they still call me every once in a while. And this Christmas, I was too busy, and I've been too busy the last couple months. I'm not going to be able to do that anymore.
Yeah.
But I miss it. It was fun. And I always say hope is free. Get some. You can get some.
That's true.
Yeah.
But you don't get a commission.
Yeah.
Right?
Nope.
Thank
I do in different ways,
Yeah.
in blessings.
Thank you, Shantel.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching another edition of Odyssey House Journals.